page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Honourable members, subject to the corrections effected, the votes and proceedings of Thursday, March 3rd, 2022 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Honourable members, we have an official report. The official report of Thursday, February 17th. Any corrections, please? Any corrections? Very well. In the absence of any corrections, the official report of Thursday, February 17, 2022 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Yes, Honourable Chief.
Speaker, I will seek your leave and your indulgence first to provide the order of business and take item 8, statement, after which we will come to item 5 and 6 accordingly. With your leave, Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Minister for Road and Highways is not in the chamber. So if we have a statement, we can take it as we propose, so I support the request.
Very well. So there's only one statement agreed to be taken today. That is a statement in the name of the Honourable Member for Kwadaso, Dr. Kensley Nyako. You may read your statement now.
Honourable Speaker, I'm once again grateful to you for the opportunity to make this statement on Ghana at 65, improving our economic fortunes. Do we need domestic might or foreign control? Honourable Speaker, on 6th March 1957, Ghana obtained independence from colonial oppression after years of struggle by our peerless forebears. Our forefathers were desperate for freedom from economic deprivation, servitude, and undignified living conditions. They saw the growing despondency, servitude, and oppression among the people, fought fiercely with the ultimate aim of severance from colonial domination in order to self-rule, self-govern, self-control, and deliver the best living conditions anchored in self-dignity, freedom, and justice for the people. Mr. Speaker, the foregoing affirms the philosophical position of Dr. J.B. Dankwa when he averred that the party's policy is to liberate the energies of the people for the growth of property-owning democracy in this land, with right to life, freedom, and justice as the principles to which the government and laws of the land should be dedicated in order specifically to enrich life, property, and liberty of each and every citizen. But, Mr. Speaker, it seems to me and a larger section of the populace that not much has been achieved subsequent to our independence. Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian economy has over the years been experiencing challenges. Politicians, civil society organizations, researchers, donor partners, and other concerned citizens have adduced several reasons relating to the perennial economic challenges facing the economy. The reasons provided include corruption, mismanagement, misappropriation, low revenue generation, low export volumes, and high import volumes. Mr. Speaker, over the years, successive governments have attempted, and in some instances, introduced interventions to address the reasons above. But sadly, they've not yielded the desired results to turn the economy around. Mr. Speaker, since independence, and even before, our forefathers and political leaders have held the unshaken belief that we are capable of administering our own country and to make it prosperous. They believe that the socioeconomic turnaround of the economy lies in our own hands and none else. They believed in the time-tested axiom of B.F. Skinner, one of the greatest behavioral psychologists, that we are the architects of our own destiny. And this is true. None but ourselves can make the country better and place it on the path of growth and development. Mr. Speaker, for how long can we depend on external support for our socio-economic progress? For how long solutions about our own internal affairs and the improvement in standard of living? As our first president alluded to, I quote, the black managing his own affairs, unquote. Yes, we are capable and must demonstrate that capability. And I believe that that capability is in our bones and genes. Right, Honorable Speaker, of all the reasons cited above, and even those not included, the one mostly neglected and must be tackled frontally is the low domestic revenue mobilization obtained via taxes, fees, and charges. I think there should be a fundamental and paradigm shift in our approach towards development. We need to look more within and less without. We need to cash in on our domestic might than rely on foreign control. Mr. Speaker, successful, emerging, and developed economies rely mostly on their domestic might. That is, resources located in their countries and outside their country, that is human capital, as compared to foreign control, that is support from other countries and donor and development partners with its associated consequential conditionalities and restrictions. Mr. Speaker, in the 2022 financial and economic policy of the government, being aware of the revenue shortfalls in the country, have identified some revenue-enhancing measures to improve upon our socioeconomic outlook. The measures include the reversal of benchmark values, fees and charges policy, reduction of small-scale miners withholding tax from 3% to 1.5%, and the electronic transfer tax. All these, Mr. Speaker, are being done to improve our tax-to-GDP ratio that stood at 12.2% in 2019, with a plan to move it to 20% by the year 2020. Our tax-to-GDP ratio is one of the lowest in sub-Saharan Africa, with an average debt-to-GDP 16.5% as at 2018. Senegal, with a population of 16.7 million, has an estimated tax-to-GDP ratio of 16.4%. And South Africa, with a population of almost 59 million, has a debt-to-GDP ratio of 26.7%. Mr. Speaker, presently, out of the 30.8 population of the country, and out of the about 80 million potential taxpayers, only 2.4 are registered income taxpayers. 45,109 companies are registered to pay corporate tax, whilst 54,364 are individuals or self-employed who have registered to pay tax. This amounts to about 2.5 million individuals and entities that pay direct tax to the state. This represents about 3.8% of the potential direct taxpayers of 18 million. This situation calls for a creative and innovative approach in addressing this perennial domestic revenue mobilization difficulty. Mr. Speaker, that is the reason why the government seeks to introduce the yield levy as an additional revenue stream to increase our revenue envelope to promote our socioeconomic turnaround. Though the yield levy has been accepted and approved in principle by this House, the passage of the yield levy bill has been in limbo, and this is seriously affecting the fiscal position of the country. While the government is urging the minority group to support it, the latter's opposition and resistance to it has been unwavering, and some of them, together with a section of the population, is praying the government to seek support from the International Monetary Fund. But, Mr. Speaker, is the IMF the solution to our current economic challenges? Inasmuch as the yield levy is not the solution, but a solution to navigate us away from our economic doldrums. Similarly, the IMF cannot be the solution. Why then should we not look within, take our destiny into our own hands, and deal with our own challenges? Mr. Speaker, I hope we can resolve this matter today in order to complete the aspirations of the citizenry. Well, Honorable Speaker, rising debts to scary levels is seen as a major challenge for economies, especially developing and emerging ones. Balima and Amadou 2019 observed that, and I quote, while high government debts expose countries to rollover risks and to a sudden tightening of international financial conditions, and therefore subsequent debt crisis, an important policy question is whether the fund, in its mandate of providing financial support mechanisms to member countries that are experiencing actual or potential macroeconomic problems through bailout mechanisms, can help mitigate the occurrence of subsequent crises, unquote. This observation, Mr. Speaker, needs to be critically analyzed. Mr. Speaker, JORA 2012 indicated that IMF loans could affect sovereign defaults through a myriad of confounding pathways. One of such pathways could happen as a result of the ramifications of liquidity provision, especially within the context of a government with fiscal issues. According to Fisher 1997, a government that is confronted with a temporal liquidity problem and resorts to the IMF for support may have a direct effect on its fiscal difficulties and prevent a potential self-fulfilling crisis. Again, Mr. Speaker, Fisher 1997, Morris and Sheen 2006, Savaria 2010 have argued that, further to mitigating the fiscal constraint, the IMF intervention could also have a vital catalytic role on other official and private investors by restoring confidence in order to mobilize capital from other sources. But in the view of Fink and School 2016, the catalytic role on private lenders could come at a cost in the long run if the government accumulates a higher level of private debt. Mr. Speaker, another instance is the role of conditionalities as a precondition to accessing IMF bailouts, which could help rebuild sustainable macroeconomic position and improve fiscal position. These conditionalities also come with restrictions, which also affect the economy in terms of recruitments, among others. Mr. Speaker, although Balima and Amal 2019 have stated that a country that signs a program with the IMF normally experiences a slight improvement in its sovereign credit rating and a decrease in both government debt to GDP and fiscal deficit to GDP ratios, we cannot continue to be controlled by them in shaping our economic destinies. We need to chart a new path. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the government sought IMF bailout in a sum of $1 billion. Yet, our economic conditions have not improved to our satisfaction. The Speaker, kindly indulge me to provide the Executive Board's conclusion on discussions to give Ghana the extended credit facility in 2015, as summarized by Mr. Min Shu, Deputy Managing Director and Acting Chair. And I quote, after 2 decades of strong and broadly inclusive growth, large fiscal and external imbalances in recent years have led to a growth slowdown and are putting Ghana's medium-term prospect at risk. Public debt has risen at an unsustainable pace, and the external position has weakened considerably. The government has embarked on a fiscal consolidation path since 2013, but policy slippages, exogenous shocks, and rising interest costs have undermined these efforts Acute electricity shortages are also constraining economic activity. The new ECF-supported program, anchored on Ghana's shared growth and development agenda, aims at strengthening reforms to restore macroeconomic stability and sustain higher growth. The main objectives of the program are to achieve a sensible and front-loaded fiscal adjustment while protecting priority spending, strengthen monetary policy by eliminating fiscal dominance, rebuild external buffers, and safeguard financial sector stability. Achieving key fiscal objectives will require strict containment of expenditure, in particular of the wage bill and subsidies. The government efforts to mobilize additional revenues will also help create more space for social spending and infrastructure investment, in particular in the energy sector. The government is rightly adjusting expenditures further to mitigate the shortfall in oil revenue and avoid a larger debt build-up. Moreover, a prudent borrowing strategy will be needed to ensure that financing needs are met at the lowest possible cost. The government's structural reform agenda appropriately focuses on strengthening public financial management and enhancing transparency in budget preparation and execution. Strengthening expenditure control will be critical to avoid new accumulation of domestic arrears. The government should continue to clean up the payroll and improve control of hiring in the public sector to address one of the main sources of fiscal imbalances in the recent past. At the same time, enhanced transparency in the public finances will be critical to garner broad support for reforms. The authorities are strengthening monetary operations and gradually eliminating monetary financing of the budget to improve the effectiveness of monetary policy and bring inflation down to single-digit territory. Safeguarding financial sector stability will be important for supporting private sector activity. End of quote. Mr. Speaker, the above narrative by the fund and the suggested solutions can be done by us. We can do it. We can commit ourselves to raising revenue from within the country to develop our land. Mr. Speaker, I would like to implore the House to embrace domestic might and not foreign control in improving our socio-economic fortunes. The electronic transaction levy is a domestic might. Let me conclude, Mr. Speaker, by commending our gallant patriots for their foresightedness, vision, and sacrifice to ensure a prosperous nation relies on the might of the people from within its domestic resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for indulging me. I am forever grateful. Thank you.
Very well. That brings us to statements time. Now I'll return to the business statement. Item 5, business statement for the 7th week. Honorable Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the leave granted to present on behalf of the chair of the committee. Mr. Speaker, the committee met yesterday and agreed on the following as a proposal for the manner in which business is to be carried for the ensuing week. Mr. Speaker, in all, 43 questions are scheduled to be answered. 1 is urgent. 42 are supposed to be regular questions. Mr. Speaker, your committee wants to emphasize the fact that ministers have been forthcoming in our request to them to attend upon the House, and we encourage them to proceed to do same in the ensuing week. The Speaker may also exercise his discretion under the 72 and under 70 to admit statements by honorable members and ministers of state. For them, Mr. Speaker may permit papers to be laid and motions taken as the case may be. Mr. Speaker, we want to announce for the information of members that Sunday, the 6th of March, is a public holiday, and accordingly, it shall be observed as such, and as has been the practice, 7th of March is expected to be declared a public holiday because the day fell on Sunday. The Speaker, members are encouraged to go to their constituents, be in their constituency, unless there are some unavoidable grounds that will prevent them from going, to share moments with their constituents and let them know the value of our independence, educate the young ones to appreciate the toils of the founding fathers of this great nation of ours. Mr. Speaker, I have attached here too the program beginning Tuesday, the 8th of March. And Mr. Speaker, all of them have been so listed. We have the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. A number of questions have been programmed, and Mr. Speaker, the all-important e-levy that members have always been inquiring. Mr. Speaker, it is important to bring to the attention of members that the e-levy falls under the program that we have proposed. So as and when it's supposed to be taken, members will be on notice. So once we say that papers and reports will be laid and motions will be taken, papers and reports include the bills that have come and committee work. So it is at large and all that. So, Mr. Speaker, members to be rest assured that they would be on notice. There will be no surprises here. So if members want to know about road tolls and why road tolls are not being taken, of course, in the 2022 budget, there's nothing like, there's zero rate for 2022. And then also, even as we delay in the e-levy, you know, we've already passed appropriation, government is to spend, and even as we've delayed as a house, government has already lost January and February revenue already. So I believe that when the time comes, we will do the needful to let the people of Ghana know that we mean business. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable members, any comments? Yes, Bueno.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to commend the Business Committee for the business statement as submitted. Two items, Mr. Speaker, that have featured prominently in their previous reports that we haven't heard anything and no news about. The deputy leader attempted to give us indication on e-levy, but Mr. Speaker, he shied away from telling us anything about State of the Nation address by the President, which was indicated in the previous business statement, and later we were told is no longer happening. Is there any news as far as the business committee or the presidency is concerned about his address to Ghanaians in this house to tell us the state of affairs? Is it that we do not care to know about the state? Because last week when we met here, the deputy majority leader made it look like we have to arrange. If we have to, is it that the House don't care? We care to know a lot about the state and the real state of affairs. So the business committee should consider letting us, all of us, know when we are arranging for the president to come and address the nation. So, Speaker, again on e-levy, why should we now hang under the general admission of bill statements and papers? If in the past the business committee found it necessary to give us indication and information that on a particular day there is either a possibility of withdrawing and relaying, we want to have that indication in this same statement that when are we going to consider that? Are we just going to continue? Are we going to see a withdrawal and a relaying? Because he added in his statement, Mr. Speaker, that we have delayed as a house. I don't think that we have delayed as a house. We have been insisting on our side that they should bring this for us to determine. Until now, we are rather told it's the finance minister that is doing consultation after presenting the bill. So how can the deputy leader of the house be seen to be blaming us as those causing the delay? We are not the one causing the delay. The finance minister is still out there doing consultation. And he says he is going to even vote it today. So, Mr. Speaker, I want the deputy majority leader and the who read the business statement to us to come clear on one, the e-levy, the dates we need to know, and when the State of the Nation address will be delivered to Ghanaians through this house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Abuja.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I thank you, and I want to commend you and speakership and leadership for your good attempt to make the House start relatively earlier this week than ever before this year. I want to encourage speakership and leadership and clerkship to see if we can do it even better from next week by starting on time. I see the chief whip on the majority side always here on time, and I know you are also always on time. If we can continue this, Mr. Speaker, we can maximize the time we spend here to the benefit of Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, I know this is not scheduled, but I'm saying it simply because sometimes we are told it will be done appropriately. Mr. Speaker, I asked a question here, and our friend, the Agric Minister, rightly came and answered a question about the report of the Cocoa Road audit report. Mr. Speaker, since the day he laid this report, I've been looking for that report in Parliament till today. I can't find it, Mr. Speaker. If the report is not available, then they should advise me to ask a new question so that the minister will bring a new report. So I'm asking this, so Mr. Speaker, you can direct wherever that report is within the premises of Parliament. I want a copy of the Cocoa Road audit report that the Minister of Agric laid in this house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Upper Danger West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last week when the business statement was laid by the Deputy Majority Leader, I asked a question. However, that question was not addressed. So I want to repeat the question. Mr. Speaker, the question concerns our drivers. Information I have is that our drivers were given a room where they could sit and relax and possibly socialize whilst we go about our normal parliamentary duties. Unfortunately, the room has been taken away from them. So they drive us to our offices, and they have to be sitting under the trees or in their cars. I just want to know from leadership whether they are aware of this situation. And if they are aware, what are they doing about it? If they are not, then I'm bringing it to their attention that the room has been taken away from them. Mr. Speaker, our drivers have become an integral part of our job. And for that matter, I think we should give them a little comfort so that they can also drive us in comfort. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Sorry, Leader, did you hear the last bit of this question? Can you speak into the mic? I couldn't hear anything. All I heard was about the driver's room taken from them, but the second part, I didn't hear anything.
Well, my question is whether leadership is aware that they had a room which has been taken away from them. And if that is the situation, what are they doing about it? If they are not aware, then I'm bringing it formally to their attention that the room that was allocated to the drivers has been taken away from them. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to do some correction on the business statement. Correction on the business statement. I asked the question, and the question has been repeated. Question number 826 has been repeated at 927. So I'm just drawing the business committee's attention to that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Kofi Adams wanted to know about the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, it is for us as a House to communicate to the presidency our readiness. And the president is not out of time. He's within the time required of him to come. So we are putting our house in order as a House. I'm saying we are putting our house in order as a House. Yes. Mr. Speaker, so would the program Mr. President to come? Yeah, who program Mr. President to come? True, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Kwame Abuja talked about the laying of audit report by the minister. Mr. Speaker, he would have to follow up with Hansa department because the minister laid the report as part of government policy of ensuring transparent accountability. And government, through the minister, laid the report, entire report, and is part of the records of the House. So, to me, if you create the impression as though the report is lost, cannot be found, then you are questioning the integrity of the table office. And that is not acceptable. This is not about the government. You should follow up or possibly work through your whips and get the necessary information. Mr. Speaker, I think in terms of relevance, these are the main questions that came. So, Mr. Speaker, I shall...
Honorable Member for...
Mr. Speaker, that is, those are welfare matters about drivers. Mr. Speaker, that is not part of business committee. Mr. Speaker, because it's the first time, I didn't want to...
So, inform him
that... Mr. Speaker, I will inform him. Honorable Member, you are hereby informed that the mandate of the business committee is to program the business of the House. The nature and form and substance of your question cannot be under our mandate. So route your inquiry through leadership. You can come to me if you can't find anybody. Mr. Speaker, the minority chief whip should not cause any internal bleeding. He should not. Today is Friday. He and I have had regular communication. We have had regular communication. Why would you want to obstruct it? Why? No, but you don't have to obstruct that which we have discussed. Mr. Speaker, I move the House. I move the House to adopt this report. I move the House. And Mr. Speaker, this is one particular motion that you don't need anybody to second it.
Yes. Dwabusu Bia or
Mr. Speaker, Dwabusu consistency.
The Dwabusu, not the Bia.
Not the Bia, yes.
Very well.
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I draw the House attention to the fact that this next week is the 7th week. It's the 7th week. Mr. Speaker, again, I would want to draw your attention to Article 67 of 67 of the 1982 Constitution. With all respect and with permission, Mr. Speaker, I read. The President shall, at the beginning of each session of Parliament and before a dissolution of Parliament, deliver to Parliament a message on the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, the beginning.
7 weeks beginning.
And as I speak to you now, we don't even know when he's coming to address the House. And the leader tells us that we are preparing our House. It means that he should be able to tell us when the President will be on this floor, because it has never happened before, except that he has no good news for the nation. Because indeed, if he has good news for the nation, he will be running to come and tell us. Mr. Speaker, so the leader should be bold enough to tell us when the President will be on the floor of the House. Thank you.
Yes. I know which you put.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to refer the Deputy Majority Leader to Order 75. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read. As soon as sufficient copies of a paper for distribution to members have been received in the office of the clerk, notice of the presentation of that paper may be placed on the order paper, and as soon as Mr. Speaker announces papers for presentation, the paper shall be deemed to have been laid on the table. Mr. Speaker, what my colleague Honorable Kwame Abuja was asking of falls directly under the mandate of my colleague, the Majority Deputy Leader. You cannot present a paper in the House, and members for weeks do not have copies, and you say that it is class and table. It is the responsibility of the one presenting the paper to make sure that he has sufficient copies that will cover every member of the House. So the moment you present, then they distribute. If it is to be run into copies, you ensure that you run them into the sufficient copies before you come and place them here. So it cannot be that they should come and talk to their leadership to get copies. You know that leadership do not produce copies of papers that are presented. It is those who present the papers that have to make sufficient copies that can go around all members before they even come to lady. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, my colleague also said that we are putting our House in order to enable the President to come and deliver the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, my colleague will know this is the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic that State of the Nation address has run into March. It has never happened before. And he was also aware that he's made even the chair, right, of the State of the Nation Special Committee.
It's Habib.
It's Habib. Okay, sorry. It's Habib. No, I'm saying I'm sorry. I withdraw. I withdraw and apologize to you saying that you are the chair. But
He nominated
Habib, you nominated Habib to chair, and I nominated my deputy Ahmed to also be there. And we knew the president was coming on the 3rd of March. That was yesterday. And have since it was supposed to have been 24th February. Then it was changed to 3rd. So the deputy majority leader, we've been ready since 24th to receive the president. So don't put the blame at our doorsteps.
This is an
and remember, we've gone more than halfway into this meeting. So please, it is your responsibility to remind the president that the session had begun, and the first meeting of the session is almost ending. And therefore, Parliament is expecting him to come and deliver the State of the Nation address as required of him by Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, with what my colleague was asking about the drivers, Mr. Speaker, he is doing so because the two leaders are on the business committee, the two deputy leaders are on the House committee, the chief whips are on the business committee, the deputy whips are on so about 8 of the leadership of the House are on the business committee, and he's drawing your attention. So we to encourage him, we are telling him, because it's the first time, it doesn't fall under your ambit. You are a leader. Telling this, it is you and I's responsibility to ensure that it is resolved. But don't discourage him that this is not the forum for him to raise it. He's talking to the leaders. Sometimes it's difficult for you to sit in your office for him to get you. So he gets you on the floor and he draws your attention to it. So take it up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, may you permit me, Mr. Speaker, permit me to. Yes, I actually prefer the diplomatic. I prefer the diplomatic enclave. Speaker, I came to meet the Honorable Minority Chief Whip when I was on this side of the House. Anytime a matter was raised, he would be quick to draw my attention to the rules. He would be quick to talk about relevance. And he would be quick to say we should learn. Even when I got elevated to this seat, he will still be debating me, understanding others. But today, it is rich, very rich, to hear from him that a matter which is supposed to be handled by the House Committee should be part of the Business Committee's mandate. Mr. Speaker, it is okay. Mr. Speaker, it's okay. But, honorable member who asked the question, take my advice. Don't be misled by others. I am saying that a question like this shouldn't come to the Business Committee. It's not part of our schedule, but it's part of some other committees. So let the Chief Whip tell you how you should appropriately get it done. But the matter you've raised is an important matter, which I believe, when properly rooted, it will be addressed. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Article 67, a literalist is likely to misconstrue Article 67. A literalist. And a constitutional provision must be given a purposive interpretation. And you read the entire document as a whole. I am saying that as a house, leadership in charge of government business is to liaise with the minority leadership to program Mr. President to come. And all I'm saying, when I use the phrase, we are here to put our house in order, I don't mean it in its literalist form, shape, and understanding. I mean to say that we have not concluded on a firm date for Mr. President. Suffice to state that Mr. President is anxious to come. We will conclude on a good date and also consult Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are certain matters that cannot be discussed. So I will plead with my colleagues in leadership to appreciate why I am lettering and halving my answer. If it's our pleasure, why not? I move the House.
Thank you very much.
You can move the House to adopt the report.
Honorable members, no, I've closed with the leadership. You finished, I'm done. Honorable members, the business statement of the House is adopted for implementation for the second week. Before we get to question time, which will be a long one, allow me 5 minutes. The House is suspended for 5 minutes. Honourable members, item 7, questions.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
your own respected colleague at the bar, Honourable Member for Etua West, and the Roads and Highways Minister. Mr. Speaker, seeks your leave to proceed to deal with the urgent question. Mr. Speaker, we have no objection to that request. Your own.
Very well. Urgent question 6A. In the name of the Honourable Member for Adakru, Kwame Governs Abuja. He has another name that he doesn't want me to use, but yes. Honourable Minister, kindly take your seat. Yes, you may ask your urgent question, please.
Right, Honourable Speaker. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity and want to thank our colleague, the Road Minister, who has most diligent in answering questions posed by colleagues. As for his ability to do what he says in the answers, it's a different matter which can be discussed on a different day.
Is that part of your question?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Ask your question, please.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways, what is the estimated loss of revenue till date due to the cessation of collection of tolls, bridge and road tolls, as contained in the Ministry's press release dated 17th November 2021?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are in total 38 toll stations across the country. There has been no loss of revenue to the Ministry of Roads and Highways since the cessation of the collection of road tolls. Mr. Speaker, after the presentation of the 2022 budget statement and economic policy of government by the Minister of Finance on 17th November 2020, most road users refused to pay road tolls at all the locations throughout the country. During that period, there was confusion between road users and the collectors. Mr. Speaker, in order to save lives and property at the toll locations, a directive was issued for the suspension of the collection of the tolls. Mr. Speaker, with the approval of the 2022 budget effectively, road tolls have been zero rated and there will be no revenue in 2022 for road tolls. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister announced the cessation of collection of toll before the budget was approved. Mr. Speaker, for the record, there would have been revenue loss at least until the day the budget was approved. So the Minister's answer can't be accurate. The budget was not approved on the day it was read. So, Mr. Speaker, how much revenue has been lost so far? Even if it's for 2 days, the Minister should be able to account for that.
Honourable, why don't you change the question? How many revenue would have been accrued? How many how much revenue would have accrued from the date you ceased, right? That will make it easier.
Mr. Speaker, I asked the question this way simply because from the day he made the announcement, we are not aware in this house that he's caused a collection of any toll since that day. So if I pretend and ask the question, how much you've accrued, I would have been pretending that he was still collecting tolls.
Have accrued. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, this is my question.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I was going to ask for the intervention of the Minority Chief Whip on the rules. Honorable Minority Chief Whip, I needed your intervention on the rules. I know the rule is against anticipation. How much would have been accrued was the text of the question. Not about what is you, what is your.
No, you don't have an objection. Yes, Honorable Minister, so please answer.
It's not available, you know.
Did you get the question or you should repeat it? Yes, can you repeat it?
Mr. Speaker, what I'm asking our colleague, my senior colleague is this, that the cessation of collection of tolls preceded the approval of the 2022 budget. So at least there was an interval between the day the finance minister read the budget and the day the budget was approved. So surely there would have been a loss of revenue until the budget was approved. So I'm asking you, how much revenue has been lost to the state due to the cessation of collection of tolls since the date you made the announcement?
I think he has answered that question.
Is it the case that when ministers say things that we know obviously are not accurate, we should accept them simply because they are ministers? Because the budget was approved on a different date from the date he made the announcement. So there's a gap. Unless you want to say that whatever ministers say are sacrosanct. But in this case, we might be pretending that what he says is accurate. It's not accurate. No, I will not ask a different question. You must answer the one I've asked.
He has answered that question. If you have another question, please ask it.
Mr. Speaker, does the minister have any intention of reinstating the collection of tolls?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government is fully determined to use all forms of revenue into the road fund to build road infrastructure in the country, including the revenue from tolls. Mr. Speaker, there are four main sources. And the four main sources, one is what we get from the fuel levy. Mr. Speaker, the almost 2 billion Ghana cedis expected to accrue into the fund. The fuel levy alone contributes not less than 94%. The other three sources, from the toll booths, from the DVLA sources, and from vehicles that transcend on the corridors of our country. The three together constitute nearly 6%. And the honorable member has been the long service experience of ranking member of the Roads and Transport Committee. The government, in its wisdom, has proposed the passage of the e-levy, to bring in more revenue to build the road infrastructure of our country for all of us. So government is looking forward to the passage of the e-levy that will bring in greater revenue, that will be securitized and then used to raise a bond if possible. I'm answering the question, so listen to me. I am answering the question. To raise a bond to build the road sector infrastructure. So government's direction and government policy is to bring in a better form of correction, because the toll revenue is built in the proposed e-levy. So that's what government is determined to ensure that is brought to bear.
Yes, leader.
Speaker, I want to make a passionate appeal. I want to make a passionate appeal that we should listen to each other in silence, so that when this is a diplomatic pouch, and this is a diplomatic zone, so when a minister is on his feet and members are obstructing, please, the heckling must be minimized, or there should be zero heckling when a member is there. Lead not your friend into temptation. Yes.
Honorable. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Telabi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to know from the minister, on the average, how much was the toll booths? How much were the toll booths giving us on the average? A day or a month? Oh, is this a problem? No, please. But why? Allow him. Mr. Speaker, my question stems from the fact that you gave us an idea of the percentage. Please, an idea of the percentage. And I'm sure the percentage is based on how much is collected either in a day or a year, a month. So can we have an idea of how much we get every month? Every month. Oh no. Allow him. You can answer. He's my friend. He can answer the question.
Address me. I'm looking at you. Address me.
My question is, how much on the average do you get in a month? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't personally, even though you have admitted the question, I will urge my honorable colleague humbly and respectfully to file a question to that effect, and I will answer it.
Honorable Minister, do you have the details or not? Just ask for filing or not, but do you have the details now or not of how much earning per month? Do you have it now or not?
Mr. Speaker, no, not now. That's why I'm saying that if he files a question, I will answer that question appropriately.
Yes. All right. Okay, Senior, I'll give you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's important that when ministers are asked to come and answer questions, they should do a greater survey of the questions so that other issues can come. We have seen other parliaments how, there's asked questions related to it. The question I have is, when the announcement was made, it also caused so many people to lose their jobs. The question is, you made attempts, you said that you were going to settle them. Have you done anything about it?
Honorable Senior Member, will do the difference to you. It does not come out, does not arise out of the urgent questions, please. Yes, Honorable Minister for the.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the answer to the second question of the Honorable Member, he did allude to the fact that a large portion of the e-levy was supposed to be used for the road sector, to the extent that they would even raise a bond to help pay contractors. I want to find out from the minister whether the inability of the e-levy to be passed by this house is bringing a loss to your ministry.
Honorable Minister, that is an aside. It does not arise out of the questions. All right. SU German.
Yes. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
SU German, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the that since the announcement to cease the collection of the tolls, the structures that were being used for the collections are still in the middle of the roads. The structures for the collection of the toll booths, the toll booths, are still in the middle of the roads. Some are structures that can easily be lifted off the roads. Some are concrete structures. What plans does the ministry have for these toll booths, because they remain in the middle of the roads? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honorable colleague for that question. It's a very fair question because it touches on even safety on our roads. Now, I want to assure you that we have a program of removing them. We have 38 toll booth centers across the nation, but toll booths themselves, we have over 120. And because of safety issues, we are making plans, we are mobilizing. Immediately we pass the e-levy, they will be removed. So the onus is on all of us, and all of us are concerned about safety issues. And that is why I congratulate you for asking that questions. Let us pass the e-levy tomorrow, and the following day they will be removed. Thank you.
Very well. It's 1, 2, 3 who had been on their feet, so I'll just give the 3 to them. All 3 behind you have come in late, so I'll not. Yes, Bongo first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with respect, before Honorable Bauer comes in, Mr. Speaker, with your leave, the Honorable Minister, in answering the previous question, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't clear in the microphone. We didn't hear him well. Mr. Speaker, with your leave.
Which part didn't you hear?
Mr. Speaker, he was talking about the e-levy and the passage, so I want him to.
I heard him very clearly, and the record is clear. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Between November 18th, when the announcement was made to suspend the collection of the tolls, and December 18th, when the appropriation bill was passed, the law anticipated that collections will be done at the tolls. How much did we lose as a result of not respecting that law?
But that was a question he answered. It's the same question the bank asked. If you have another question, otherwise I'll move on. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to find out from the Honorable Minister, during the presentation of the 2022 budget, the Finance Minister made mention to this House that the toll collectors, the staff, those who collect the tolls, will be reassigned. I want to ask the Minister, what is the state of the toll collectors now? Have they been reassigned? Oh, thank you.
Truly, this is a new question, but do you have any information to share?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's true that the finance minister did say that the toll booth workers will be reassigned. It's a process, it's not an event. And it's going on. Even, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, and you can check, yesterday there was about 3-hour meeting in my ministry conference room among officials from my ministry, officials from the Federation of Disability People, the road toll company that is managing, or that was managing the road toll correction, and even the council, the Disability Council, which is chaired by one Mr. Ofori Debra, as the chairman, the council chairman. He himself was even in attendance just yesterday, trying to fashion out the new process of continuing to engage all the toll booth collectors, particularly the disabled people. And it was the government of His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo time, and it's unprecedented in the history of our country, that found these people a dedicated job to be done. So more or less, we brought them into being so far as that employment is concerned, and we will not leave them midstream. So, Mr. Speaker, we continue to engage them, and up to date, all those people have been paid. That is why you haven't heard any noise from anywhere. And we are in touch with them, and we shall bring that process to a good conclusion and reassign them. So the finance minister's promise to this August House and to the nation is on course. And our government, whatever we say, we deliver, and it will be delivered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know if the toll workers are government workers or... You don't have a second bite. Oh, okay. Can you resume your seat? Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister made allusions to the fact that the cessation of toll collections have led to the protection of lives. I want to know how the cessation of tolls have led to the protection of lives.
Is that the cessation of tolls have led to...
Yeah, the collection of tolls in his statement
has led to the
protection of lives.
Really? Well, probably. Honorable Minister, can you clarify that? I'm not sure I heard it right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleague is quoting me out of context. I've never made such a statement. So I don't know what he's talking about, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for Asante Central.
Mr. Speaker, the last question that was asked the minister said that the prevention or the stopping of the collection of the toll booths, the money from the toll booths, had led to protection of life and property. I remember in your earlier answer, you had actually said that there was the need for a directive to be made to actually prevent the destruction of property and life. And I think that is what the honorable member had asked, if the minister can throw more light on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What's the question again? I'm not sure. Is it what? Protection of light or life?
Mr. Speaker, I think I heard a minister saying that the impression I got was that as soon as the budget was read, people had the erroneous impression that they will not be paying the toll booths. So it had led to chaos. And that was what the minister regulated, if I am right, and if he could throw more light on this. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, can you explain what that is?
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it was exactly so, and the information that was available to me as the sector minister and to my ministry, perhaps a lot of people, particularly my colleagues, will not be privy of. And my ministry and my good self have the responsibility of protecting life and property. So, Mr. Speaker, it was exactly so, because we have evidence, prima facie evidence at our disposal of what was going on in almost all our toll booth centers when the announcement was made. And we had the responsibility to make sure that we protect life and property. So that action had to be taken immediately. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister and the ministry over the years have reported that the toll booth averagely gives about 78 million annually. 78 million averagely. They are able to collect about 78 million annually average. If you break this by 365 days, it gives you averagely a little over 200,000 a day. And between 18th November and 18th December, when the appropriation was passed, that's 30 days. So when you multiply it, you have 6.4, averagely about 6.4 billion. Will the minister tell this House that the country lost an average of over 6 million Ghana cedis as a result of his cessation of the collection of toll over this period before the appropriation was passed?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that, yes, in some months we could go up to 75, 78 million Ghana cedis. That is for the year. But on the average, if you take the, say, 5 years and you do the extrapolation, Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that on annual average, the figure is around 68 million. Just as even on monthly average, we put it at 5, but it could be plus 10, minus 10 on monthly basis. Mr. Speaker, I do not know what we consider as a loss, because it depends upon the comparison and the relationship being drawn. Mr. Speaker, nothing is good or bad unless it's by comparison. And that's why I indicated earlier on that what I was privy to and my ministry was privy to was so frightening that even if within those few days some monies would have obviously been corrected, as a responsible government, a responsible ministry, and a responsible minister, Mr. Speaker, it will not be proper to put the lives of our compatriots, any Ghanaian, at risk because of collection of tolls, because no amount of money could have compensated for the loss of even an individual. So even if within those few days, yes, obviously some money would have been collected, whether it's up to 5 million, 6 million, I don't think it will be up to the 6 million as my colleague mentioned, because the 6 million is an average for a whole month. But whatever it was, priority was given to protection of life and property, and no amount of money, as I've said, could have compensated for loss of any life. And it would have been very irresponsible on the part of my ministry and my good self, to keep quiet for the pandemonium at that time to continue to rage on, leading to loss of any life. Because once a life was lost, we couldn't have brought it back. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to find out from the Minister, in his earlier answer, he said the intention was to get the e-levy and securitize it over a period and take a huge sums of money to be able to finish the roads. I just want to be sure, is that what you stated?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's obvious and it has been made clear to the whole world the intention of government and the object of the proposed e-levy, in doing at least three basic things. One is the development of infrastructure, among which road is key and paramount, and all of us agree to that. The second point is that the proposed e-levy will go into youth development, which we need for our country now and the future. And again, substantial part of the money will be used for the ongoing digitization program, which is good for our nation. So these are three key thematic areas that the proposed e-levy will be deployed. And I have given an idea that as we are all concerned about the development of the road infrastructure in our country, and the fact that from north to south, east to west, we are even witnessing demonstrations from our people for provision of roads in their areas. And rightly so, because any group of people anywhere have the right as Ghanaians to demand for good roads, even though it cannot be done simultaneously across the country by the government or by any other government. That will sound illogical and unreasonable for anybody to think that all roads could be faced at the same time, simultaneously in our country. But I admit that every community in our country, every town, and every individual has the right, to ask for good roads, provided the funding is there to support it. And if anything at all, those of us who are privileged to be members of this house even know better, and we are clamoring for roads for our constituencies and our constituents. That is the number one cry from our constituents. And I gave an indication that in the road sector, I can think of a brighter future should we pass the e-levy, and should we get the expected amount into that sector. We could do a lot of things. In the first place, at least between 1.8 to 2 billion will be coming into the road sector, and a lot could be done. It could be securitized, and then once you securitize that amount, you can even use it to raise funds. So that's the idea I gave. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's all right, I was saying summarize, then you close it for me. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't intend to continue, but I don't know whether you got the answer from the question that I asked, because I wanted him to reiterate what he said. I wanted to be sure that he meant that if e-levy passes, it is going to be used to securitize, is going to use it to securitize for more loans.
No, he's talking about what will come to the road fund, not the entire thing. What will come, or did I get you wrong? That what will come to the road fund that you will securitize? Did I get you right or not?
Mr. Speaker, what I did say is that if we have that substantial amount of money, there is a possibility that could be done. No, that could be done with the money. It could be used to raise bonds as we go into the future to get more money to finance the road sector for the benefit of the country and for the benefit of all of us. And Mr. Speaker, there is nothing wrong, and that possibility is there. There's nothing wrong about that.
Mr. Speaker, well, that's agree. There's nothing wrong. But Mr. Speaker, you know the narration has always been that we were to approve this e-levy so that we no longer go and borrow. Now it is beyond reasonable that the e-levy is to be used to even borrow more. And the minister has just confirmed that.
That's your conclusion.
I'm grateful you rightly corrected my colleague that that is his conclusion. But Speaker, on a more serious note, we have about 12 more outstanding questions in the name of the sector minister. I want to plead with colleagues as Speaker, seek your indulgence, if as much as possible. All of us have agreed that today being a Friday, we want to try and dispense of business early enough. So if we could limit the follow-ups and limit the follow-ups so that we can finish as soon as possible. Speaker, with your discretion.
Yes. The next urgent question, I'm advised that the Honorable Attorney General is not available. So we'll proceed with the main questions. And the first one is question 610. In the name of the Honorable Member for Awin, Oscar Oferilabi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the Enchi Dadiesu Road in the Western North region will be continued and completed. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Enchi-Dadiasu Road is 50 kilometers road connecting the Awin and Swaman districts. Mr. Speaker, kilometer 30 to kilometer 50, that is 20 kilometers in between of the road was completed in 2016 and is in good condition. The remaining 30-kilometer section was awarded under the project titled Construction of Enchi to Dadiasu Road. That is the first 30 kilometers on 16th August 2010 for completion on 15th November 2012. The contractor abandoned site in July 2015 after 63.81% of work done, and this resulted in the deterioration of the corridor. The contract has since been duly terminated. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Highway Authority has carried out a study of the outstanding works and has repackaged the project for award. Currently, procurement of the contract is in progress. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. May I know from the Minister and the good people of Awin, when will this procurement processes be completed? Yeah, when will the procurement processes be completed?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, procurement processes take an average of maximum of 6 weeks, maximum of 8 weeks, minimum 6 weeks. So once we begin, at least within a maximum of 8 weeks, we should bring it to completion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Can the Minister assure the House that by the end of this second quarter, the good people of Awin will see a contractor on the site?
Honorable, which second quarter?
Second quarter of this year.
So, okay. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do not want the kind of assurance my honorable colleague wants from me. As for putting a contractor on the road, it could be done even yesterday. But the power to keep the contractor on the road depends upon money and depends upon the passage of e-levy. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member. Are you done? Very well. Question number 636. Honorable Member from Kranza North, Joseph Kwesi-Mensah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the contractors working on the following routes who have abandoned sites will resume work. Busia Town Roads, Busia Dromankasi Dinkra, Busia Boaben, Tanko Fiema, Busia Bumri Bonte. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Your mic.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Buzunya is the district capital of the Nkranza North District in the Bono East region. The town is located on the Aseche to Atebubu Road, which is a regional road R047. The trunk road through the town is bituminous surface dressed. However, the town roads are all gravel surfaced and in poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the Buzunga town roads have been awarded on contract titled Upgrading of Buzunga town roads, measuring 5.8 kilometers. The project commenced on 22nd July 2020, and the Speaker is scheduled for completion by 21st July 2021. The contractor is back to site and work is ongoing. The contractor has executed the following activities. 1. Roadside clearing, and he has done 48%, concrete works 4%, and earthworks 3%. To date, Mr. Speaker, the physical progress of work is estimated at 3%. 2. Businga to Dromankesi to Dinkra Road. Mr. Speaker, this road is within the 96-kilometer Aseche to Atebubu Road, designated as R047. The first 15 kilometers of this road from Aseche is bituminous surface dressed and in good condition. The section of the road between kilometer 15 to kilometer 30, that is the next 15 kilometers, is gravel surface and has been awarded for upgrading to bituminous surface. This section connects Businya to Dinkra through the Dromankesi town. Mr. Speaker, currently the Businya to Dromankesi to Dinkra Road has been awarded on contract titled Upgrading of Aseche to Atebubu Road. That is from kilometer 15 to kilometer 30. The project commenced on 3rd July 2020 and scheduled for completion on 2nd July 2022. Mr. Speaker, the contractor is back on site and work is ongoing. The contractor has executed the following activities: roadside clearing 64%, concrete works 0%. However, evidence at site shows contractor is mobilizing to start concrete works. Earthworks 2%. To date, the physical progress of work is estimated at 2%. 3. Buzinya Buabin Road. With the background, Mr. Speaker, this is a feeder road of 4.2 kilometers long. The road consists of both gravel and sandy sections in poor condition and located in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for the upgrading of this feeder road was awarded on 19th August 2016 for completion by 23rd November 2017. The contractors abandoned site after achieving a projected physical progress of 14%. A final warning letter was issued on 20th July 2020 for the contractor to remobilize to site, but have since failed to comply. The future program, Mr. Speaker, is that the Department of Feeder Roads has initiated the necessary contractual process to terminate the contract by the end of the first quarter of 2022 and repackage for consideration and re-award. 4. Tankor to Fiema Road. Mr. Speaker, this is a feeder road of length 10.5 kilometers. The road is located again in the Nkranza North District, and it is an engineered road with poor surface condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for the upgrading of this feeder road was awarded on 19th August 2016 for completion by 23rd November 2017. The contractor abandoned site after a physical achievement of 6% completion. A final warning letter was issued to the contractors on the 20th July 2020 to remobilize to site, but have since failed to comply. Moving into the future, Mr. Speaker, the Department of Federal Roads has initiated the necessary contractual process to terminate the contract by the end of the first quarter of 2022 and repackage for consideration and re-award. Buzinga to Bomere to Bonti Road. Mr. Speaker, this is a feeder road of 8 kilometers long and located in the Nkranza North District of the Bruno East region. It is an engineered feeder road in poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the road was programmed for upgrading in 2 phases. Under the contracts, 1, Buzanga to Ninahini feeder road, constituting phase 1 to cover 4 kilometers, and Buzinga Ninahini feeder road, phase 2, also of 4 kilometers, that's from kilometer 4 to kilometer 8. Both phase 1 and phase 2 were awarded on 22nd October 2019 for completion by 2nd September 2021. Apart from clearly no significant progress has been achieved, the contractors have been served with 2 warning letters to reactivate the site, but have since failed to comply. Mr. Speaker, the future program on these roads is that the Department of Federal Roads has initiated the necessary contractual processes for the termination of the contracts by the end of the first quarter 2022 and repackage for consideration and re-award. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, the follow-up question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I know from Honourable Minister, according to the contractors, they were on site and left site simply because they were not paid. May I know from the Minister what mechanisms he is putting in place to get the contractors paid for them to go back and work on the roads?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in almost all the instances, the contractors had not even done any substantial work, and about among the 4 or 5 contractors, almost 3, 4 of them have not even put in any certificate, because they do not have the basis to do so. So it's just a question of capacity. That's why I have indicated in my answer that over the period, now convinced that they will not be able to execute the jobs, Department of Federal Roads has begun serving them with the mandated termination notices. So we are taking steps, to ask them to go back to work. Other than that, at the expiration of the third warning letter, the contracts will be terminated and, like I said, repackaged and re-awarded to more competent contractors. And the process is ongoing. I thank you, sir.
Are you done?
Yes, please, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Question number 639, the name of the honorable member for Lower Menya Krobo, Ebenezer Oklete Kwelabi. Telabi, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when Akuse Town Road will be constructed. Akuse Town Roads, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Akuse Town is located in the Lower Menya Krobo district of the Eastern region. The network of roads within the township has a total length of 8 kilometers and in poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no upgrading or rehabilitation program on the township roads, but there is a future program, Mr. Speaker. Condition and engineering design studies will be conducted on network of roads by end of the first quarter of 2022 for the upgrading of the roads to bitumen surfacing. The execution of the intervention will, however, depend on resource allocation under the 2023 budget after due consideration has been given to ongoing commitments. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, no.
Akuse for I am mobile. I am mobile. Mr. Speaker, the answer the minister has provided means that they don't have plans for my place. And will you consider the fact that we have a very important installation, the Akuse Dam? We have the irrigation authority and all the rice farms. In terms of our contribution towards the economy, will you not consider at least doing something temporary for now? Because the last time the president came to Akuse to commission the retrofitted dams, with the caliber of vehicle he brought himself. I hear when he went to the rest house, he complained bitterly because it was so bad. It is so bad. And that's why I'm saying, Akuse boy, I am more bothered. Why don't you do something for us, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Tel Labi is my very good friend, and he's a very honorable person. I'm sure he's asking all these questions for one, the politics of it, and for the benefit of his constituents. Mr. Speaker, the very answer about Akuse Town roads and the adjoining roads, the very answer is already in his knowledge. Only 2 days ago, I had detailed discussion with him, only that I won't make it public. And he knows the program of tackling not only Akuse Town roads, but the Akuse Road and the collaboration we are having with a state agency. We have almost agreed. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind my colleague that he knows Akuse Town roads and Akuse Trunk Road from the junction to the town. Those roads are in the front burner, and he knows that implementation will start very soon. I'm sure this question has already been admitted. Otherwise, he wouldn't have filed it at all because he knows the answer. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You know the answer. You used to
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did it for the records, at least so that we can hold you. So Parliament can hold you to, whatever you told me, because you can deny. You can tell me we didn't have any discussion. But once you put it out here, it will be on record, so that when I'm coming to your office, I can carry that, answer to your office. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
What has that got to do with you? I'm not going to allow you on Akuse Town roads, please. Question number 778. Honorable Member for Upper Denture West. Sir Daniel Ohenedako. You may ask your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the Ayamfrey to Kwame Procurement stretch of the Ayamfrey to Dunkwa Road under the Cocoa Roads will be completed.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Dunkwa Ayamfuri Road, which forms part of the Inter-Regional Road 8, IR8, connects Upper Denchira East Municipal Capital, Dunkwa, to the capital of the Upper Denchira West District, Diaso, through Ayamfuri. Again, it is a major link between the Ashanti, Central, and Western North regions. Mr. Speaker, currently 10-kilometer section of this trunk road was awarded to Mrs. Fakor in 2015, but was terminated and re-awarded to Kakos Limited as an addendum to the upgrading of Adesu Afrancia to Dukwa to Ankwaso Road of length 55.55 kilometers, including the construction of two number 30-meter span concrete bridges in the Western North region. Work commenced on 15 January 2021 for completion by 14 January 2022. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is a request for approval for variation order number 1, VO1, who seeks to redesign the Ayamfuri Kwame Procurement stretch. Physical progress of work is estimated at 9.2%. Works have slowed down on the road, and GHA is taking steps to get the contractor back to site. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, I want to find out from you whether the project is still being funded by COCOBOD, or for that matter, is part of the Cocoa Roads, or the Ministry of Highways, or Ministry of Roads and Highways has taken over the project. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Was that a comment or a question?
It was a question, Mr. Speaker.
Can you repeat it? I didn't get you clearly.
Very well. The question is whether the project is still under Cocoa Roads, and for that matter, is being funded by COCOBOD, or the ministry has taken over the project in terms of funding.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the project was awarded by Cocoa Board, and as at now is still under Cocoa Board. But for my honorable colleagues' information, it was only yesterday that a meeting was held with the managing director of GACOS, Mr. Shao, only yesterday, and we have arrived at certain conclusion, which between today and Tuesday, the technical people are going to hold discussions with Cocoa Board to redefine the funding source and the payment strategies for the road, because this is a critical project. In case it doesn't go the way we want it to be, and if there is a possibility, it will either be transferred to GOG or the funding source will be shared between GOG and Cocoa Board. But the most important thing is that whether it's Cocoa Board funded project or GOG, is all funded by the public, I mean the government. So that is being worked out as of now. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, I understand the road or that section of the road is being redesigned. I know from I am free to Dunkwao has a lot of curves in between. But can you explain why on this occasion only that portion is being redesigned? Because I understand they are taking care of the curves, but the curves run from I am free to Dunkwao. So what really occasioned the decision to redesign just that portion? Because it is the redesigning that's really causing the delay to the project. Can you explain to us?
Honorable, I'm not sure whether it's not a different question. Honorable Minister, do you have any information?
Mr. Speaker, I cannot give the very specifics, but what I know of is that if engineers call for redesign of a project, then it means that during the construction, certain issues, forming the basis of the contract might have cropped up. That it's likely that during the original either design or discussion of the project, that might not have been in contemplation. So anytime a road is redesigned and the specifics of the roads being changed, is always in the interest of the project. It rather upgrades the project rather than downgrading it. So I'm sure is for the betterment of the project. Perhaps during the construction they have realized that certain areas must have, for instance, bus covers that did not form part of the original scope of the work. So in most cases, Mr. Speaker, redesigning of projects, upgrade the scope of the project and is for the betterment of the project. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Question number 637. Apparently, I jumped that. It's also in the name of the honorable member from Kranza North. 637. Please ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the following roads will be constructed to ease transportation challenges for the people of Kranza North constituency. Masu Pinihi, Sika Aseche, Tom Fiaso, Drumankese Town Rose, Tom Nkransa, Fiema Bonte, Fiema Amiokrum, Ipenyamwa Asioti, Odumase, Drumankese Junction, Maso, Tusa, and Konkrumpe to Fiema. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Is number 637. The answer, I'm told, is in the addendum.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I begin with Manson Pinihin Road. Mr. Speaker, this is a feeder road of length 15.5 kilometers. The road is located in the Nkranza North District. It is engineered and in poor condition, consisting of partly gravel and partly sandy riding surface. Currently, Mr. Speaker, this road was programmed for upgrading in phases last year under the contract names Manso to Kranka to Pinahin Feeder Road Phase 1, covering a distance of 8 kilometers, and Manso to Krankla Pinahin Feeder Road Phase 2 from kilometer 8 to kilometer 15.5. Mr. Speaker, both phases were awarded on 11th March 2020 for completion by 5th August 2021. Due to the slow progress of work, the contractors were served with warning letters on the 20th August 2021 to reactivate site and also expedite action on the outstanding works. The contractors have recently submitted their revised work program. However, they are yet to move to site. The Department of Feeder Roads is monitoring their remobilization to site and will recommend termination if significant and will recommend termination if no significant work is achieved within the extended date. 2. Sika to Aseche Road. Mr. Speaker, this is also a feeder road of 8.0 kilometers long. The road is located in the Nkranza North District. It is an engineered road in poor condition, consisting of partly gravel and partly sandy sections. Currently, Mr. Speaker, engineering studies have been carried out on this road and cost estimate with proposed intervention has been submitted to Department of Feeder Road Head Office for consideration. Mr. Speaker, this road would be considered in the future for improvement when funds are made available. 3. Fiaso to Tom Road. Mr. Speaker, this is also a feeder road of length 12.3 kilometers. This road is again located in the Nkranza North District and it is partially engineered and in poor condition, consisting of partly gravel and partly earth surface. Currently, Mr. Speaker, this road was awarded for spot improvement activities on 30th July 2020 for completion by 10th March 2022. The contractor is yet to commence the work and have been served with warning letters to expedite work. The contractors have recently submitted their revised work program, indicating how they intend to complete the works within the time frame. 4. Dromankesi Town Roads. Mr. Speaker, Dromankesi is one of the major towns in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region of Ghana. It is located along the regional road R047, which connects Aseche to Atebubu. The section of the road between kilometer 15 and kilometer 30, that's within the 15 kilometers from Aseche, has been awarded for upgrading to bituminous surface. And this section passes through the Dromankesi town. Most of the existing town roads connect the main Aseche to Atebubu Road. All existing roads in the town are of earth surface and in poor condition. Currently, there is no contract awarded for Dromankesi town roads. The future program is that engineering studies have been carried out on 5.26 kilometers of the Dromankesi town roads for upgrading to bituminous surface. However, this will be considered in the 2023 budget. That is Tom to Nkranza Road, measuring 5 kilometers, Fiema to Bonti Road, measuring 4 kilometers, Bodong to Krompe Road, measuring 6 kilometers, and Odumasi to Dromankesi Junction, measuring 11 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, the above feeder roads with their respective lengths are all located in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region. They are in poor condition with both gravel and sandy section, making movement difficult and impossible in some cases. Currently, there is no program on the roads, but engineering design studies will be carried out on these roads in the future and cost estimate prepared for consideration under the 2023 budget. Fiema to Ameyankrom Road, 8 kilometers. Nipa Nyamwa to Eswo T Road, 6.8 kilometers. And Mansun to Sal Road, measuring 9 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, the above feeder roads with their respective lengths are all located in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region. They are in poor condition with both gravel and sandy section, making movement difficult and impossible in some cases. There is no program on these roads currently, but, Mr. Speaker, engineering design studies will be carried out on these roads by the end of the second quarter of 2022 to assess the appropriate interventions needed on them and subsequently considered under the 2023 budget. Odumasi to Dromankesi Junction Road. Mr. Speaker, the 10.4 kilometer Odumasi to Dromankesi Junction Road is designated R215, is a loop that links Droman to the Aseche to Atebubu Road, known as R047, at Odumasi and Dromankesi Junction. The road is gravel surface and in fair condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no major rehabilitation program on the road. Routine maintenance contracts will be awarded in blocks to prevent further deterioration, but it has a future program, which is engineering studies will be carried out soon for consideration pending availability of funds. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, do you have a follow-up question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, In Minister's answer to the question, he mentioned that the roads are in poor condition and making movement difficult and impassable. Honorable Speaker, may I know from the Minister what plans he has for the people of Nkransa North to upgrade the roads in Nkransa North, since most people in Nkransa North are farmers, and during rainy season they find it difficult to transport their produce to the market. So may I know from the Minister plans he has for the people of Nkransa to upgrade the roads in Nkransa North? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I made an honest and rare admission about the state of roads in Nkransa North. You know, apart from those that have been brought to bituminous level, as I indicated in my answer, the majority of the roads you asked, the question on at gravel stage, and they are sandy, but it makes movement difficult a bit, particularly during rainy season. That is why I indicated that we have them under our routine road maintenance program, and we shall continue, to do that, to make sure that the roads are motorable, taking into consideration the nature of activities of the people there, as farmers, who work on their farms on daily basis. But there is a rare program, as we have done a lot of engineering works on them, but definitely it will take effect in 2023 budget. Before the end of the year, we would have finished with all the groundwork, and it will be captured, for implementation next year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You are done, or you have another? Very well, thank you very much. Question number 801, it's in the name of the honorable member for Binduri, Abudulai Abanga. Very well, I'll proceed. Question number 803, in the name of the honorable member for Goma Central, Ms. Naneya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways that when are the contractors coming back to the following towns? Gomwa Indiem to Gomwa Lome, Gomwa Awomro to Gomwa Inswaim, Gomwa Abasa to Gomwa Ayeswaze, and Gomwa Achiase to Gomwa Dahom. I want to ask the Minister, when are the contractors coming back to work? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I begin with Gomwa Nduem to Gomwa Lome feeder road measuring 6 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, this is an engineered road located in the Gomwa Central District of the Central Region. It is gravel with poor surface condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for the bitumen surfacing of Gomwa Nduem to Gomwa Lome, measuring 6 kilometers, and Portsin Junction to Portsin feeder road measuring 2.2 kilometers, was awarded on 27 August 2019 under the Road Fund. The contract commenced on 14 November 2019 with an intended completion date of 13 November 2020, which has since elapsed. Work executed to date include clearing and formation, that is 6 kilometers, cutting and filling to formation level 24,555 meter cube. The overall progress of work is projected at 7% physical completion. Mr. Speaker, the contractor abandoned site after IPC, that is Interim Payment Certificate 1, was certified on 27 August 2020 and has since failed to return to site, citing delay in payment as the reason. The future program, Mr. Speaker, is that the Ministry is taking the necessary steps to settle all outstanding obligations. To Gomwa Awombril to Gomwa in Siayim Feeder Road. Mr. Speaker, this road is 4.2 kilometers long and is an engineered road, feeder road located in the Gomwa Central District of the Central Region. It is a gravel road in poor surface condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for the bitumen surfacing of this feeder road was awarded on 30th October 2019. Works commenced on 7 January 2020 with intended completion date of 6 January 2021, which has since elapsed. The contract is being funded from the Road Fund. Work executed to date include 4.20 kilometers of clearing and formation, 1,011 meter cube of cutting to formation level, 4 number to 900 millimeter pipe covers, 2 numbers of 1,200 millimeter pipe covers, 2,526 meter of 600 by 600 millimeter concrete U drains. The overall progress of work is projected at 35% physical completion. Mr. Speaker, the contractor is on site, but the progress of work is slow due to the delay in payment for certified work done. Gomwa Abasa to Gomwa Ayenswaji Feeder Road, measuring 3.20 kilometers, Gomwa Achiasi to Gomwa Dahum Feeder Road, measuring 4 kilometers. The background to this road is a speaker. These roads are engineered and located in the Gomwa Central District of the. They are gravel roads in poor surface condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the Gomwa Apasa to Gomwa Ayenswaji Feeder Road of length 3.20 kilometers and Gomwa Achiasi to Gomwa Dahon Feeder Road of length 4 kilometers have been awarded as one package for surface dressing under Road Fund. Works commenced on 3rd June 2020 and was expected to be completed on 2nd June 2021, which has elapsed. Works executed to date are as follows. Gomwa Abazi to Gomwa Ayenswaji Feeder Road, 3.20 kilometers, clearing and formation, 3.20 kilometers, concrete U drains, 1,434 meters. B. Gomwa Achiasi to Gomwa Dahon Feeder Road, measuring 4 kilometers. Work done to date include clearing and formation of 4 kilometers, concrete U drains of 875 meters, covers 6 in number. The overall progress of work on both roads is projected at 20% fiscal completion. Mr. Speaker, the contractor will be requested to submit a work program on how they intend to complete the works by the end of June 2022, failure of which the necessary contractual processes will be initiated to terminate the contract. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, do you have any follow-up question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm satisfied.
Very well. So I noted that I jumped question 802 in the name of the Honourable Member for Suhum, Sakoja Sante. If the Honourable Member for Suhum is here, you may ask his question. Very well. So I'll go on. Question 860 in the name of the Honourable Member for Prestia Huni Valley, Robert Wisdom Kujo. Yes, you may ask your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise up to ask the Minister for Roads and Highway steps taken to construct the following roads in the cocoa growing enclaves within Prestia Huni Valley constituency. Aboso Wasankran Iskuma Road, Aboso Piaso Tintin Road, Prestia Gambia Bipasi Road, Prestia Bondai Kutukro Road, Prestia Bronin Kwanta Nipehiamwa Road.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I begin with Aboso to Wasa Nkran Esikuma Road. Mr. Speaker, this road is 21.3 kilometers long and is engineered feeder road located in the Prestia Valley municipality of the Western region. The first 10 kilometers of the road is bituminous with severely distressed surface, whilst the remaining 11.3 is unengineered. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the Department of Feeder Road has no program for the Aboso Wasa Nkran Esikuma Feeder Road. Engineering design studies for the upgrading of the road has been conducted on this road as a future program. The implementation of the intervention will, however, be considered under the 2023 budget, subject to availability of funds. 2. Aboso to PSO to Tinimo Road. Mr. Speaker, this road has a trunk road section and a feeder road section. The trunk road forms part of the Aboso through Bremai, that is Pioso Junction to Huni Valley. The feeder road section starts from Pioso Junction through Pioso to Tintinimo, measuring the distance of 10.5 kilometers and located in the Prestia Huni Valley municipality of the Western region. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the Department of Feeder Roads has no upgrading or rehabilitation program on the Pioso Junction to Pioso Tintinimo Feeder Road. However, engineering design studies will be conducted on the road by the end of the second quarter of this year, 2022, as a future program for rehabilitation. The implementation of the intervention will, however, be considered under the 2023 budget, subject to availability of funds. 3. Prestia to Gambia to Bepoasi Road. Mr. Speaker, this is a branch road on the Prestia to Kutu Krom Road. The branch road is identified by the Department of Feeder Roads as Gambia Junction to Bepoase, measuring 10 kilometers with 6 kilometers engineered section and the remaining 4 kilometers partially engineered. It is located in the Pristia Valley municipality of the Western region. There is no upgrading of rehabilitation program on the road currently. But, Mr. Speaker, engineering design studies will be conducted on the road by the end of the second quarter of this year, 2022, to determine the appropriate upgrading intervention for the road as part of the future program. The implementation of the intervention will, however, be considered under the 2023 budget, subject, of course, to availability of funds. Pristia to Baudier to Kutu Chrome Road. Mr. Speaker, this road is a 23-kilometer engineered inter-district feeder road linking the Pristia Valley and Nzima East municipality of the Western region. Currently, Mr. Speaker, this road, which was awarded together with other roads under the contract titled Upgrading to Bitumen Surfacing of Santasu Basike Feeder Road and others, measuring 65.2 kilometers on 17 August 2020. The contract commenced on 21st August 2020 with an expected completion date of 22nd September 2022 under the JNPC funding. The contractor has commenced work on the Santasu to Basike Road and is yet to commence activities on the Pristia Utukrum Road. Then Pristia Bronin Kwanta to Nipahiamwa Road. Mr. Speaker, this is a feeder road and is an 18.2 kilometer engineered road located in the Pristia Valley municipality of the Western region. Currently, there is no rehabilitation or upgrading on the road. Engineering design studies will be conducted on the road by the end of the second quarter of this year, 2022, to determine the appropriate upgrading intervention for the road. The Speaker, the implementation of the intervention will be considered under the 2023 budget after the consideration for spillover contracts into 2023. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, any follow-up questions, please?
Mr. Speaker, I also like to thank the Minister for this answer. Mr. Speaker, I would like to crave your indulgence to make reference to 2022 budget statement. And my reference point is page 145, paragraph 696. Mr. Speaker, as I paraphrase, the government of Ghana through Cocoa Board made allocation of 456.6 million cedis for cocoa road improvement program in the last cocoa season. And another 400 million also has been allocated for this cocoa season. And the essence, according to the paragraph, is that it is to ease cocoa evacuation from the hinterlands to the takeover centers and to improve livelihood in cocoa farming areas. Mr. Speaker, Pristia Valley has 2 cocoa districts, and one of the cocoa districts is Huni Valley. For the past 3 years, Huni Valley has been on the top of as the highest producer of cocoa in this country. So I'm asking Mr. Minister, what has happened that with availability of this fund, Pristia Valley for the past 5 years has not seen any regrading or improvement of any of our roads for the past 5 years. Why, Mr. Minister?
Honourable Minister, are you properly briefed about Cocoa Roads? Honourable Member, your question was to the Minister. If it's about Cocoa Roads, probably the Minister for Agric will be the more appropriate minister to answer. But if you have a follow-up question on his answer, please proceed.
Honourable Speaker, my question was cocoa growing areas, roads in cocoa growing areas. And I know that when allocation is made through Cocoa Board, is the Minister for Road that is going to execute those projects. And I'm asking that constituency...
That is not correct. Cocoa Roads administers its own funds. So when it is money allocated to Cocoa Roads, the Minister for Roads and Highways will not be able to answer questions relating to that. So, but your question to him was on Roads and Highways, steps to construct the following roads in the cocoa growing enclaves. So he has a responsibility, but Cocoa Board also supports the cocoa roads in the cocoa growing area, but their funds are not administered by the Minister for Roads and Highways.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. But Mr. Speaker, almost all the concluding sessions consideration will be subjected to availability of funds. So I want assurance from him because over 5 years now we have not seen any regrading. So any assurance, Mr. Young, that something will be done soon, but not when funds are.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker's assurance is dependent on the passage of E-levy.
Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My people have heard that unless we pass the E-levy, their roads are not going to be improved. Thank you.
Very well. Question number 862. The Honourable Member for New Edubiase, Adams Abdul Salam.
Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways the progress of work on the construction of the Subin Camp to Ahuma Road in the New Edubiase constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Supin Camp to Ahuma Road is a gravel road located in the Adanse South District of the Ashanti region. The road is an access feeder road leading to cocoa farming communities. Mr. Speaker, the road was selected for upgrading under Cocoa Board funding as part of the Cocoa Board funded rehabilitation stroke upgrading of roads in cocoa growing areas program. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the contract for the upgrading stroke rehabilitation of Subin Camp and Huma Feeder Road commenced on 21st June 2021 for completion by 22nd June 2022. The project is at 55% physical completion. The contractor is currently on site working. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I filed this question because the contractors left site temporarily. And I'd like to thank the Minister for bringing the contractors back on site, even without the e-levy.
And the contractors are back on site now?
Yes.
Very well. You want a follow-up question?
Yes. So I just want to urge him to keep them on site and encourage them to expedite work on the construction of the road, and ensure that it's completed within the time frame before the rains come. And once again, I want to thank the Minister for bringing the contractors back on site.
Very well, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank my honorable colleague. He calls me uncle, so my honorable colleague and nephew, very much for his honest admission that the contractors are back on site. They left site because of, obviously, delay in payment, but having done something, by government, you see that they have returned to site. So all the contractors who have left site, 99% of them, the reason is one: no money to pay them. That's why you should support e-levy. I thank you.
Very well. The last question is in the name of the same member for New Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. To ask the Minister for Roads and Highways the progress of work on the construction of the PDM Agravi Road. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the PDM to Agravi Road, measuring 5.40 kilometers, is an engineered access feeder road located in the Adansi South District of the Ashanti region. It is the main access to cocoa farming communities located beyond Fidium. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for the upgrading of Agravi Junction, that is Fidium to Agravi Feeder Road, commenced on 18 December 2020 for completion by 17 December 2021. The contract is funded by Cocoa Board. Mr. Speaker, work completed to date is projected at 15% fiscal completion. The contractor is currently not on site. The department intends to serve warning letters to the contractor as part of the future program, as well as recommendations on the future of the contract to Ghana Cocoa Board for determination. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister in his answer is indicating that they plan serving the contractor with a warning letter. May I know when you intend doing this? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The moment is now, so any moment from now, because the contractors have indicated is not on site, and he has abandoned site for some time now, obviously, either for delayed payment or he hasn't gotten the capacity. And as I indicated, he has done only 15% of the work. So any moment from now, we are going to serve him with the warning letter, since he has refused our call to return to site. Thank you.
Yes.
So, Mr. Speaker, the Minister right now just said that he presumes the contractor is on site because of money issues, or he just doesn't have the capacity. But I just want it to be on record, and find out from the Minister that if they have actually engaged the the contractor to find out exactly why he's not on site. So, Minister, have you engaged the contractor to find out why? Because now you're just assuming that it could be monetary issue or capacity issues.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is obvious and that is ongoing exercise. Anytime a contractor is not on site, we know the reason, and I've given you the reason. It could be one of the two or both. In this case, it could be partly capacity problem and partly delayed payment problem, because there is no road construction going on anywhere in this country without a supervising engineer. It doesn't happen. Any road project going on anywhere, once it's in currency, there is a supervising engineer. And because of that, we have constant report on the status of every road project, and the dialogue, if you like, is permanent, because it's an ongoing thing. Okay, so we know the status of it, and once we have issued a warning letter, it means that the contractor is not performing to the expectation of the ministry. And if it doesn't comply with our warning letter,